All right, what's going on, party people? It is BQ. This is the Negative BQ Show. All bets are off on the Negative BQ Show. You know, right off the bat, I'm probably going to be complaining about something, talking about something a little on the negative side, right? So, this one actually, my topic today, it doesn't even involve an issue I have with the company. It's what I'm really seeing on social media. I got to ask a question. Are TNA fans unhappy with TNA? Now, when you're dealing with a company that is a smaller company, it can be a lot easier to have an identity. It can be very easy to lose that identity too, which happens a lot of the time when you're trying to grow. But when you're in those early stages, you have an identity. Think about the early day one days of TNA. They had an identity. They had a hunger. It's the same thing with early AEW. You could see the hunger within the talent and on the show, and they had an identity. And as they've tried to grow, it has now just become another version of WWE, but with indie wrestling. And obviously, TNA has had that issue over the years under different owners, under different management. Every time you're trying to grow and get new eyeballs, you start getting away from the core of what worked, the foundation of what brought the current fans in. And I do see history repeating itself a little bit. There are the TNA hardcores and the diehards, and they sit there and like, we want a new, a bigger station, television station than Access TV, bigger network, I should say. We want more eyeballs on the company. Well, where do you think these eyeballs are going to come from? Do you think they're going to come from, thin air? They're going to come from individuals who watch other wrestling companies. So if you're trying to appease to that audience, if you're trying to reach that audience, you're eventually going to try to appease that audience. If you look at a company like NWA, they are on an island of their own. Those motherfuckers give two shits. They do what they want to do, no matter how indie. And I don't mean Tony Khan indie. I mean like Bingo Hall indie, right? Doesn't matter how indie what they do is. They just know that it may be a small audience, but they know there's going to be a core audience for what they do. And those people are always going to be there. If they try to expand and say, "Hey, we want more eyeballs," you're going to get away a little bit from what brought you to the dance to begin with. I think we're starting to see it with TNA, and we're starting to see it with the fans. Forever when I'm doing this podcast, say I'm just doing my mailbags, I would always get the question, do you think TNA will get to a bigger network? I'm like, no. With the product they have right now, like this is their fan base. This is it. It's not really shrinking, it's not growing. This is just it. They're not doing anything to get on a bigger network. But now that the possibility is there, you see what's happening. You see the crossovers with NXT. And the one thing that has driven everyone crazy was NXT talent holding the TNA titles. Like people are losing their minds over that. Now, I didn't have that big of a problem with Trick Williams winning it because I knew Mike Santana was just going to get the belt off him, and it, creatively would mean a lot more for Mike Santana to take it off him than it would off Joe Hendry. You know what I'm saying? Like it's better for him to be the hero of TNA. That works for this angle. I was really, really shocked when JC Jane won the title. I thought that one came off more of, hey, we're trying to get our title on NXT television. Like I felt the story in the men's title, the women's title. I didn't feel that. I thought that came off like a desperation move. But now that we're getting there, now that we're getting to the place where a larger TV deal is possible, and this partnership, which again is a partnership that had to happen for them to grow their audience because the eyeballs were not coming, from thin air. They weren't coming out of thin air. Like you have to try to poach from another company or get another company's fans to also watch your show. But now that it's happening, they might be getting away from the foundation a little bit, the core of what they're doing. People are starting to get upset. And now you're in this weird position where you're actually risking turning away the fans who've been loyal to you when you were in the mud. And now that you're growing, you're kind of like, I don't know if I want to stick with this. You know? I mean, trust me, like my WNBA team has always been the Indiana Fever. It's my one non-Los Angeles team. I've got or non-Southern California team. You know what I'm saying? I've got my Clippers, my Angels, my Chargers, my Ducks, my USC. You know what I'm saying? Indiana Fever. I was never a LA Sparks fan. I was always an Indiana Fever fan. We were, my God, I used to go to the games, 1,000 people there. I could, if you have 4 or 5,000 people at a WNBA game, that's considered low. There's teams who are higher in the 10,000 range, but if you're at a 4 or 5, that's already low. 1,000. I went to games where I probably could have just moved up to the front. I could have stubbed in the game and no one would have known or cared. But then, Caitlin Clark comes around. The team has become this phenomenon, this team that these players who I thought were I felt like us fans were like a cult. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, um, like one of my favorite players, Lexi Hull, man, love Lexi Hull. Now Lexi Hull's a fucking celebrity, because Caitlin came in and just completely changed everything. And now you go to a game and it's just filled with fans that, hey, where were you 2 years ago? Who are you? And really, for me as a fan, like it's actually killed my fandom a little bit because now I feel like I'm part of the bandwagon. There's a TNA bandwagon right now going on. I've been to a couple of the shows. I know a lot of you have been at the shows. Like there's a good portion of the people there watching TNA for the first time, completely unfamiliar with what they're doing. Like they're there for Joe Hendry and the WWE people. But it is growing. But now it's like, yo, where were you guys a year or two ago? Were you possibly making fun of TNA a couple years ago? So it's little by little getting away from what people made what made people fall in love with the company. And at this point, you just got to decide if you're going to stick with them or not, because they're going to do stuff like this. Someone from the main roster might come and take the title at some point, because this NXT thing, right now it's fresh, so it just by nature they're going to have some shock factor. By nature, they did what they did and have NXT. There's an NXT girl right now with the title again. Ash won the title, brought it back to TNA. TNA said, yo, send someone else from NXT over to come take our title back. And because it's fake phony wrestling, it's one thing if everyone was completely lost in the show, suspended their disbelief, and like, oh man, someone from NXT won again. Like, no, like we all know it's a work. So we know that these legitimate motherfuckers legitimately saying, hey, send someone so we can put the title on them. And then like we're back at square one, and a lot of the TNA fans were like, fuck, because we already got one of the titles back, and it's not a good invasion angle. Like it isn't. If NXT wrestlers come on the show, they're not getting like, yeah, mainly they send heels over, but they're not getting like all this heat and getting booed out of the arena, and because a lot of the people there are there for the NXT talent. So that's been like a complete mess in my opinion. But they put a title right back on someone from NXT, and now people are really, really getting pissed. There is a bigger picture. The bigger picture is the growth and the new TV deal. But you're going to turn away. They're going to turn away some of the TNA diehards along the way. Like it's already starting to happen. Rob Peter to pay Paul. You're you're almost selling yourself to the devil a little bit, saying, "Hey, we want to grow this thing. Um, we're probably gonna have to lose some of the people at the bottom who've been hanging out with us from day one. It's already happening. It's probably going to continue to happen." The fingers get pointed at Carlos Silva because he's the one who showed up. Now it seems like the talent seems to like him. I mean, he seems to be doing a good job with the company. They're growing at a rate that they haven't since I've been covering them. Like Scott and Don came in, promised change. Like there really wasn't a lot of change. This goof came in with his hat, promised change, and there's been change. Like there's good things happening, but the fingers are being pointed at him by the diehards, saying, "What are you doing to our company?" You also have to be reminded that the AEW takeover of TNA, which was a legitimate takeover, is still fresh on people's minds. People didn't understand it. They were excited initially, but then they quickly did not understand it. And when I tried to find out what the original plan was for Kenny Omega to drop the title, I was basically hit with, "I'm not sure. I think it was supposed to be Josh." Like I don't know that there was an end game, because if you went to knowing what we know about Tony Khan, do you think that they had the partnership with AEW and they sat down and be like, "Hey, this is who we want to take the title off him"? Tony Khan doesn't let his people lose in other companies. He wouldn't let Kenny Omega come over if there was a plan for him to drop the title. He probably want him to be champion forever. But that whole thing is still so fresh on people's minds. And this partnership is obviously very, very different. I'm always trying to tell everyone it's very different. The partnership even goes beyond what you see in the ring. Like it's also collaboration behind the scenes and trying to learn from the biggest wrestling company out there. But it's just the price you pay. You guys been asking for it. You've been asking for larger audiences, whether a television or live audience, the larger crowds. You've been asking for bigger names to come over. You've been asking for a larger television network. You've been asking for more coverage by Meltzer and Sean Sapp and all these guys. You've been asking for fans to give TNA a chance. I mean, am I wrong there? A lot of you guys on Twitter, "Hey, watch TNA. Check out TNA." If you just watch it, you'll like it. We're getting away from that core audience. We're growing it. We're having a lot of strangers show up. They're going to appease those strangers before they try to appease us who are watching no matter what. I think right now they're in the middle. Because they're still on Access TV, I think they're in the middle. I think one day they're like, "We got to appease the WWE audience." The next day they're like, "Hey, we got to appease the people watching our show that have been watching it, that watched it on Pursuit." But when that television network, or excuse me, that television deal comes, the TNA we're watching right now is not going to be the same. This is going to be a very different TNA. They're going to take bigger swings. We're going to see more Santino. We're going to see more and more faces that the NXT audience is familiar with. It might get to the point it completely dominates the show. I mean, honestly, you watch AEW. The large majority of them, it feels like, obviously I don't follow that closely anymore, are just coming from another company. And all those people they kind of built with, like when I was watching the company, when I was really into AEW, I was really into the Dark Order. I know I'm one of the few, but I love the Dark Order when they were heels. Britt Baker. What was the other girl I was thinking of? Ty Conti, Ty Mello. Uh, there was a lot in that first the wrestlers who were there from the very beginning, that first year, those first 2 years, that I really liked, and they started phasing them out to where almost none of them are there anymore. None of them are on the show, and now look at everyone who's dominating. They came from somewhere else. We're gonna that point is gonna happen with TNA. I don't know what to tell you guys. The TNA that you're watching right now, the TNA TNA you love or have loved, they're going to get so far away from that. Think how far away they got from it in the very beginning. I'm not saying it's going to become Bischoff and Hogan, but you saw from this young, hungry group of wrestlers who wanted to make a name for themselves and just build something from the ground up and what it quickly became when they wanted more eyes on the company. It is very likely that we get some kind of version of that again. I don't know if it's going to be next year. It might be in a couple years. You see wrestlers like the pictured here, Rosemary. She's not even on the show. They can't even find a way to get her on the show. Go back to 2014, 2015, whenever she debuted in Decay, and she was one of the best parts of the show. She was a Knockouts champion the one time. She was one of the best parts of the show. Where is she now? She's not, at the front. We're gonna see that. Like some of these wrestlers now that we're really into in the company, maybe Leon Slater. What if Leon Slater becomes an afterthought one day? Hopefully he doesn't. But anything's possible the more that they scale this company up. But you guys have been asking for it. You've been asking for it, but you have to accept the consequences from that. And maybe consequences isn't the right word, but you're going to have to accept the results. You've wanted the growth. You've wanted the extra people watching. It's going to get away from the TNA you love. And you have to decide, are you sticking with it or not? But I do see a lot of people jumping ship. Now, I'm not saying they are now. I see people eventually jumping ship. I think we are going to get a version of the Hogan Bischoff era. Not as bad. Not as bad. It's going to be a much better show, much better run company. All right. I don't want that to be misconstrued, but I think the overall vibe of the show is going to be very similar to that. We'll see if I'm wrong. I do not think that I am. I think the TNA we love maybe has another year and a half left in them, but it's going to be a completely different company a year and a half from now. I strongly believe that. We can go back and look at old episodes around this time and be like, "Yo, remember this person was on top? Remember this person was featured. Remember this person meant something." What if Steve Macklin means nothing? Yes, he was from WWE, but they don't really. He is closer to that EC3 type where you just think of him as a TNA guy. What if he's nothing in a year and a half? What if the Elegance brand, who, Heather and M, who we're really liking their work so far, what if they're nothing? It's just going to be interesting to see how they build this roster and how much they continue to appease the WWE audience, and if they completely abandon the people who are watching the show and what they want. TNA fans always like, we want lockdown. 8 years later, they had one lockdown in a shit cage, and now we're back to no lockdown. We want King of the Mountain. Scott D'Amore was more likely to do that, to give us a King of the Mountain or something like that. Queen of the Mountain. He did the damn reverse battle royal. He's more likely to have. He is someone who would have been more likely to resurrect old things from TNA. Silva's not going to do that. Silva's not going to bring back Joker's Wild, and like every day that passes, it's becoming a brand new company and getting away from what established it to begin with, and it's probably going to continue to do that. I'm your boy BQ. We'll talk again soon. I'm out. Peace. I said peace.